Have the first slide up, that'd be great. Well, I wonder, we've kind of had that video at the beginning and we've sung how great they are. When was the last time that you were lost in wonder? Something so sublime that no words would do it justice. All you could manage was just about to say, wow. What makes you wonder? I was thinking about this in our time today with our dear friends Richard and Anna, and I was wondering what makes them wonder. Of course, Richard, as he reflects back on that wedding day, he is lost in wonder at how it was possible that he could have punched so far higher than his weight. Lost in wonder. And he wondered, could there be any greater wonder than that? And then a few years later, Rollo was born. And his wonder found a new level. And Anna, poor Anna, she often finds herself in wonder at how any individual can look that good in lycra. But more seriously, after Rollo was born, she thought, could it be possible to love another child as she loved him? And then, of course, along comes Zachary, and there was wonder all over again. And wonder is an experience that should very much be part of the Christian journey. Of course, we know it should be. As we reflect on God's power and his majesty, we should be awestruck. We sing it. I'm lost in wonder. I'm lost in love. I'm lost in praise forevermore. But I wonder if this is something that is largely lacking. We're more underwhelmed than overwhelmed. Why is that? Why is that? Well, briefly today, I want us to consider a few things, which is, are we truly wondering at God? Are we truly wondering at Jesus? And are we truly wondering like a child? Because they're absolute experts at wonder, aren't they? Which seem very apt today to think of this with the dedication. They're not tainted by a world-weary cynicism, which we so often get bogged down. It doesn't take much, does it, to get a child to be wowed. We were in Ukraine a few weeks back, and I spent many hours with my 4-year-old nephew, Lukian. He is in a pretty constant state of wonder. Truthfully, it doesn't take too much to get him into that state. We took him over a pack of Paw Patrol stickers. Here they are for you oldies that don't know what we're talking about when we say Paw Patrol. And he was, wow. And he would, look at how many there are on this sheet. Wow. And every single one has got a little picture of a Paw Patrol character. Wow! And the back of each one is sticky. They're all sticky. Wow! And this pack of sticker actually kept us occupied for hours and hours and hours. Every single sticker in this Paw Patrol multi-pack, we lovingly put on my mother-in-law's fridge. Not sure if she was happy about that. She was saying something, but I don't speak Ukrainian, so I don't know what she was saying. Anyway, here is my mother-in-law's fridge after my visit. And I sort of said, see you next year, bye. I'll bring more stickers. But we need more of that childlike wonder in our lives, don't we? I know I do. We worship a God who, Psalm 8, where we started, set the moon and stars in place. So, friends, do we truly wonder at God? Briefly on this, I want to spend most of our time in the next section looking at that passage that Richard read from Mark 4. But if we're lacking in wonder, could it be that we've actually got too small a vision of God? And maybe the reason for that is deep down, we may actually prefer a God who is less awe-inspiring and a bit more small and domesticated. One who conveniently thinks in the way that we think and who we can manage and control. Maybe you don't wonder at God because you don't want to encounter one so unpredictable. You want to predict his ways. How daft is that? Oh Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the works thy hand have made, I see the stars. I love a starry night. We all love a starry night, don't we? Makes you feel very small. And sometimes, last time I saw a really brilliant one, we were in Wales. And, when you look at those really good ones, it seems like there can be millions of stars in the sky. But actually, the naked eye can only see between 5,000 and 10,000 stars, depending on what website you read. And if that was all it was, between 5,000 and 10,000 stars, what a wonder that would be, actually. What a wonder. There are actually a few more than that, as you may know. One estimate is that it's 3 septillion, which is a 3 with 24 zeros after it. There it is, down at the bottom. You can't compute that, can you? It's too wonderful, it's too big. To give you a context, 1 million seconds is 11 days ago. 11 days is 1 million seconds. Remember that? 10th of November? You all remember what you were doing on 10th of November, don't you? No, neither do I. But anyway, it's 11 days ago. And then you add one more zero, it's 1 billion seconds. 1 billion seconds, that is 32 years ago. I was 4. No, I wasn't. I was 20. Late 80s, Maggie Thatcher, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Back to the Future movies. Yep, you all look completely vague. Yep, that's 32 years ago. But what about 1 trillion seconds? That's just one more zero. 1 trillion seconds would take us back 32,000 years. 32,000 years. We'd be back in the year 29,979 BC. Remember that? Charlie, you remember that? You cannot comprehend it, can you? And in a moment, God creates with a word. The prophet Isaiah says this. To whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens, who created all these. He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name, because of his great power and mighty strength. Not one of them is missing. Imagine he's named them all 3 septillion. What wonder. What wonder. We have trouble remembering each other's names. You see someone in church, you say, oh, hello, Peter. And they say, oh, it's not, it's Paul, actually. Oh, sorry. Or you say to your other half, oh, should we say hello to that couple? No, don't say hello to them. I can't remember their names. It'll be so embarrassing that we can't remember the names. Just hide. The apostle says, who has known the mind of our Lord? Who has been his counsellor? That's a rhetorical question, by the way. No one has. No one in history can raise up their hand and say, yep, I know God's plans. In fact, I gave him some helpful counsel the other week. He wasn't sure what to do. That was me. Have we lost that wonder, friends? Are we awestruck, filled in a sense with fear, because that is the beginning of wisdom? The problem is we so often want a God who will just help us maintain the status quo, not shake things up, or just maybe help us reduce our stress levels a bit, or restore a peaceful equilibrium to life. If you are a believer this morning and lacking wonder, it may be that you haven't rejected God, but just reduced him. Would you seek again for the living God and everlasting King, the only sovereign King of kings and Lord of lords, who alone has immortality? The one who said to Moses, I am who I am. Never a time I was not, never a time I won't be. He just wonderfully is. That's not just true of the Old Testament God. That's not where our wonder should solely rest. When people in the New Testament came across Jesus, he got a response. Peter, if you remember, saw him at the Mount of Transfiguration. He fell face down to the ground, terrified. And people all the way through the Gospels meet him, and they're in awe and wonder at times, and honestly, spitting and vilifying him at other times. And there's a reason for this. God said to Moses, I am who I am. And Jesus said to the religious leaders, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. Oh boy, they got a response. So let's ask ourselves, do we wonder at Jesus? And let's go back to that stormy sea in Galilee, Mark chapter 4. The disciples are in this boat. Mark's gospel, by the way, is absolutely brilliant. It's really short, 16 zippy chapters. If you want some homework or just a challenge, just read the whole thing through. It'll probably take you less than an hour for a full account of Jesus' life, death and resurrection. But in this bit, Jesus is with his disciples going over the Sea of Galilee, which is about 700 feet below sea level. 30 miles north is Mount Hermon, 9,200 feet high. So you've got the cold mountain air clashing with the warm air from the sea. So thunderstorms and squalls will have been common, but not a problem for these hardened fishermen. They're used to it, no problem. But even so, this one must have been a big one, because the guys in verse 38 are in such a panic, they think they're going to die. Jesus, by the way, is asleep. And I love the detail that you get in verse 38 here. Did you see that? He is sleeping on a cushion. There's a nice image, isn't it? All very comfy. He's got a plumped up cushion, having a little snore. While the disciples, we're going to die, we're going to die. Verse 39, Jesus wakes up and he tells the waves to quiet and be still. If you're into Shakespeare, he loves a good storm, doesn't he? Usually quite dramatic. Prospero at the beginning of The Tempest, whipping up a storm. King Lear in that storm, blow, winds blow. It's all very dramatic. And this could be a moment like that, but none of it. Jesus simply says, quiet, be still. Like you would to a naughty student. You quiet, be still. That's what this word here is. Be quiet and stay quiet. And even more amazing, the storm obeys. Verse 39, the wind died down, it was completely calm. In the ancient world, the sea was a symbol of unstoppable destruction. Could be calmed by God alone. King Canute, good example, in the 11th century. Don't know if you know the story of King Canute. His courtiers were flattering a little bit, going a bit over the top with their flattery of the king. And he got a bit sickened by it. So he said, look, am I divine? Am I divine? And he walked to the shore and said, stop. But the waves kept rolling. And that was exactly what he expected. He was saying, only God can control the sea. I can't, I'm not God. But what about Jesus here? He didn't call on a higher authority. God, will you stop this storm? He said, quiet, be still. And it was. You're saying, I am God. Do you wonder? Jesus' miracles that we read about in the Gospels are not kind of let's entertain the crowd kind of stuff. They are at times out of compassion, but they're making the broader statement that I am God. He's not saying I'm a pretty amazing prophet or a magician or a spiritual man, or he's not even saying I'm God-ish. I'm the very revelation of God himself. Do you wonder? And if it is true that Jesus is God, well then he really is Lord over the storm, Lord over all. And then surely in Jesus, we can find all we need. All the power, all the knowledge, all the love, all the rest, all the healing. And how did the disciples respond? Imagine you're in the boat. Quite hard to do that. What is your response in this story? There's been this crazy storm. You think you're going to die, and then calm. How would you respond? Well, you might be tempted to say relief. Oh, thank goodness. The storm is under control. We're alive. But no, look at verse 41. They were terrified and asked each other, who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him. At the beginning, the disciples are afraid of the storm, verse 38. Now it's completely calm, verse 39. But in verse 41, they're now terrified. They're more terrified of the calm than they were of the storm. I understand why they were afraid of the storm. It was mighty, it was powerful, probably a bit of fear in that sense is a wise thing. But Jesus' power compared to that storm is infinite. If they thought they had any control over the elements, boy, have they got no control over this man who stands before them, who created those elements and can conduct them as he sees fit. They have a better chance of controlling the storm out there than the one that's standing before them in here, in the boat. Friends, if you want a tidy religion where you understand it all and it's predictable and there's a bunch of laws and you do this at certain times and say that at other times, then Jesus isn't for you. Jesus' divine power is unlimited, but so are his wisdom and his love. You see, we can trust Jesus, we can put our faith in him because he is powerful and worthy and he loves us. The problem is we want Jesus to be all powerful and all wise and all loving, but also act as we think he should. That makes no sense at all. The writer Elizabeth Elliot said this, a good quote here. She said, "God is God, and since he is God, he is worthy of my worship and service. His will is necessarily, infinitely, immeasurably, unspeakably beyond my largest notions of what he's up to." We may not understand everything about God. This idea of him being God but emptying himself into a human body, we'll think of it again at Christmas, is mind-blowing actually, isn't it? You may not understand in life why some stuff happens. Maybe suffering you experience or see or hear of. And at times you want to shake your fist. Well, don't worry about that. God can cope with that too. But it is this way because he is God and you are not. And his ways are infinitely, immeasurably, unspeakably beyond your largest notions. Do you wonder? Back in verse 40, Jesus says to the disciples, "Do you still have no faith?" Could also be translated, "Where is your faith?" I wonder this morning if you have faith. Have faith that there is a God. Have faith in Jesus and have faith that Jesus is not just a bit under God, but fully God. Who says to those in the darkness, "I am light." To those who thirst, "I am living water." To those who are lost, "I'm the way." To the confused, "I'm the truth." To those under the curse of death, "I am the life." To those who need a fresh start, "I'm the door." To the unrighteous, which is all mankind, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, "I will be your righteous covering." To powerless, "I'll be your defence." The empty, "I'll be your fullness." To the defeated, "I'll be your living hope." And to the dead, "I'll be your resurrection." At the cross, Jesus willingly enters into our brokenness and suffering. He doesn't just say, "I'll fix that pain," but "I will immerse myself in it." On that day at Calvary, things look so out of control, but he turns it to his glory and our good. What wonder. In the face of sinful man, he makes himself nothing, takes the nature of a servant. He humbles himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. Every right, every opportunity to crush those who have turned their backs, and instead lets them crucify him. And more, pursues those he loves all the way to the cross. What wonder and glory. You may feel this morning you don't have much faith. Now, I confess to you there have been times where I would have described myself in the same way, actually. The amount of faith you have doesn't matter nearly as much as what you put it in. For the Christian, the object of our faith is Jesus Christ. We have this mustard seed of faith that he is uniquely God, that he can save us. And the smallest of our faith is much less important than the perfect ability he has to actually save us. Faith is simply a recognition that on our own we cannot save ourselves. If you believe you have the ability to get through this life and whatever happens after that, well, then you have faith in yourself and your ability, then who needs Jesus? But when you are saved by faith, it's that point where we say, I know I can't save myself. It's not that I'm a completely worthless waste of space, but I do not have all that is required. I recognise you are God, I need you, I trust you, I put my faith in you. And people all through the centuries have put their hands up and said, I want to follow this Jesus. They confess their sin, they commit to him, they get baptised, they reorder their priorities, their understanding of true treasure changes, and people look and think, seems crazy. And if he was another preacher-teacher bloke, it would be. This guy that only lived for 33 years in a backwater on the other side of the world, who never travelled or wrote a book, had a home. You don't follow Jesus who is merely a teacher whose teaching changes, or a prophet whose prophecies are a bit iffy, or a philosopher whose philosophies go out of date. But we follow Jesus, who is the Christ, who is and always has been fully God. The Jesus who says, you who are heavy laden, you who may be from a troubled background, you who may be from earthly royalty, you who may be incredibly rich or desperately poor, whoever you are, come follow me, the living God. You will receive the gift of eternal life. Friends, I wonder if the reason we sometimes struggle to persevere in our faith, especially when those trials come, is because we've never seen Jesus this way, had that wonder. When life throws you a curveball of the fiercest type, and maybe that's where you're at this morning, a diagnosis, a relationship collapse, a bereavement, just a darkness, a future plan that's gone up the Swanee, you will need more than gentle Jesus who strokes your hair, or a platitude about the things that don't kill you, make you stronger. You need a God of infinite glory who is sat on the throne, naming the septillions of stars, bringing order into his plans which are never thwarted, who came to save, and nothing in all the heavens will get in the way of that. That's what we need to know and wonder at. And what stops it? I mean, maybe we do wonder at God. We're wowed to a degree when we look at the stars, but we think, oh, it just seems so out there, it seems so big. And maybe we do wonder at Jesus. Maybe we've considered, think, oh, maybe it's a bit inconvenient. Or we have scientific questions or philosophical questions. Well, then we come full circle and we ask, do we wonder like a child? And this is what got me thinking about this morning as we were dedicating Zachary. Because interestingly, Jesus does ask that of us. Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of God. This wonder that we need is a childlike one. I was reading something on this recently, and it used this interesting phrase, maturing toward childlikeness. Maturing toward childlikeness. We tend to think of it the other way around, don't we? We mature away from childlikeness. And of course, in many respects, that's right. This isn't a license to be childish. It's not a return to go back and start eating Farley's rusks again, if you remember them. But are we maturing towards childlikeness? A childlikeness that experiences amazement and wonder. There was a young lad in the church midweek, actually. We were just standing on them stairs out, and he was telling me a bunch of stuff. He was rattling off all sorts of things. And all of a sudden, he pointed at the window, this one on the skylight. He pointed at the window, look! And I was looking, and I was like, what? I can't see anything. What's she pointing at? I can't see anything. Look, look, look! It turned out it was a fly on the window. It was just a fly on the window, crawling along. And he was looking, he was going, can't you see it? Are you thick? Look! And actually, of course, he's right and I'm wrong. It's amazing. It's amazing. Like the stickers. They have Paw Patrol characters all over them, and they're sticky on the back. Friends, that may be a silly example, but are you sure you're not missing the glory and wonder in front of your faces? Do we need to mature into childlikeness a bit more? If you feel distant from God, an absence maybe even, a dryness, then receive him with wonder. If you think you need a few more questions answering to satisfy you, well, you're likely wrong. I don't think we need more information. We need to behold the living God who is greater and more wonderful than we can fully comprehend. If he's predictable, he won't command our affections or our worship. If you make him small enough to understand and not need to wonder, then he will not be big enough for our worship. So, dear friends, this morning, let's wonder at God, who beyond our understanding created the universe, who is perfectly righteous, fulfills our desire for justice. Let's wonder at Jesus, the I am on display, who in a demonstration of amazing grace is willing to redeem us as we turn to him, the only one. And let's look to him in childlike wonder and declare, I'm truly lost in wonder. I'm lost in love. I'm lost in praise forevermore. Because of Jesus' unfailing love, I'm forgiven. I'm restored. Does it make you wonder? Let's pray.